Okay, so for chapter 50, I'm going to try to just breeze through this one pretty quickly. I have a little bit more to say about it in the notes, but I'll just mention a couple of points and then we'll move on. The opening of the chapter, verses 1 through 3, really the Lord is addressing Israel's complaint of God's unwarranted rejection, saying his discipline is, we don't deserve it, and it's too harsh. His punishment is too harsh. And the Lord basically zeroes in on, no, the reasoning is your iniquities. Because of your iniquities, you were sold. I didn't just do this. I didn't decide it. I didn't give you the certificate of divorce and send you away. No, you chose this as a consequence of your covenant rebellion. And he goes on to clarify that there. And this is something that's true throughout different phases of history. It's, of course, ultimately true at the end of the age when they have to face the final tribulation as a consequence of the depth of the rebellion that precedes the end of the age. But here, from verses 4 onward, let's say through 9, we go back to the Messiah. We have a conversation really that seems to be the Messiah speaking, but it's not just the Messiah. The Messiah rejoins this conversation by demonstrating the correct response to God's call, which Israel had missed. But the Messiah's response is not just himself, but he's actually serving as a prototype for all who would be called to prepare the way of the Messiah as prophetic messengers. So this is a faithful witness, typified in the Messiah, but as a prototype for all who would aspire to be faithful witnesses. And there are some remarkable things in this, of course. He says, the Lord has given me his words. He's given me the tongue of those who are taught. Morning by morning, he awakens me. He instructs me. The Lord has opened my ears, and I was not rebellious, and I didn't turn back. Again, he's demonstrating perfect obedience, perfect reception, perfect response to the word of the Lord. And it's remarkable that he says it's not just my own words in my mouth, but it's the Lord's words. He is giving me these words. And that's really important for a later chapter. But then, look at this. He says, I even gave my back to those who strike. Not only did he not reject the Lord's instruction, he says, I didn't turn rebellious. I responded with humility and with obedience, even though it resulted in adverse reactions when I delivered it, when I communicated. He endured the persecution that came with it. But he says, the Lord helps me. Therefore, I will not be disgraced. Therefore, I've set my face like flint, saying, I am going to be steadfast in my commitment, and I know that I will not be put to shame, for he who vindicates me is near. And he goes on to say, so who can contend with me? Essentially, the Lord is my strength. He's my vindicator. If I stay faithful and obedient to his words and communicate them faithfully, even though I may be persecuted in the short term, I will be proven right in the long term because the Lord helps me. So who can declare me guilty? And he says, all of those who persecute him and who call him guilty and who even orchestrate efforts to resist and oppose him, all of their efforts will wear away like a garment and will be eaten up. But then there's this very, very important instruction, which is why I didn't want to just skip 50 altogether. For anybody who aspires to the preparation ministry of the Messiah's coming or the prophetic ministry at any level, this is so important because Isaiah, again, at this point, really speaking for the Lord, he warns those who aspire to covenant loyalty, especially as prophetic messengers, to not fabricate false prophetic narratives when God is silent. So pay attention. Verse 10, who among you fears the Lord and obeys the voice of his servant? Saying, who among you are going to be receptive the way that the Messiah has been receptive and obedient? Let him who walks in darkness, a darkness being figurative, obviously not like you're blind or you don't have lights on, but even that you don't have guidance, you don't have light being revelation and direction from the Lord at the moment. Saying even when you're in darkness, even when you don't see the path forward, even when the Lord's given you promises, but you can't chart the path to get there, even in that time, trust in the name of the Lord and rely on God. Because here's the problem. Behold, all you who kindle a fire, you equip yourselves with burning torches. You're basically fashioning your own directions. You're charting your own path, and you're coming up with the narrative out of your own imagination. He says, if you walk by the fire of your own, he says, you walk by the light of your own fire and by torches that you have kindled. It's not the prophetic word of the Lord. It's your own prophetic imagination. And he goes, all this you have from my hand that you will lay down in torment. It will not go well for you. You will not reach the fulfillment of those promises or your desired destination. No, what you've got to do is let him who, even if you're sitting in darkness and you have no light, wait on the Lord. Trust in the name of the Lord. Be faithful to the authentic, prophetic, biblical narrative alone, because that alone is what will be validated. And if we go around creating our own fires in our own direction and our own prophetic narratives, you will lay down in torment. And the Lord will test this. The Lord will intentionally leave us in seasons of darkness and waiting to see if we start to grab our own narrative, to see if we start to come up with our own answers, to see if we try to do it in our own strength and forge our own fires. But no, he says, rely on the fire, the light of the Lord alone, and it will be enough. It will get you there. It will get you there. And that's what the Messiah demonstrates perfectly in the remainder of these chapters. Okay, so let's get on.